So we have got some really lovely field and hedgerow birds, otherwise known as our um, thrush family, which are just fabulous, aren't they? But these ones I've put in this pack today are red wings and fieldfare, which you do see a little bit more in the autumn, winter, because they come in to get the berries and things like that. And I know for sure in the last, I'd say 3 years, I've been noticing them more and more in my garden. Not loads, they seem to come in on their own, which I do believe that they also travel around in, bigger, kind of like bigger flock, not massive flocks, but slightly bigger groups. So, but they seem to come in on their into my actual garden, but we are at the back of, the field that backs onto us. So probably they're coming into the field and then seeing coming in a bit further to see what's there. But they are lovely, and the reason kind of picked these is because they are so striking with their with the colour that they've got, is that warmth, and also obviously the red wing. They really are red under the wing, and very interesting. I had to get my book out to see what they actually were, because I was like, what on earth is that? It's too big for most of the birds. But yeah, they are a really pretty bird. Um, so hence why we have, like, why I've got hedgerow birds today. So we're going to have a go at this. I'm working in pastels, but you can work in what you want. If you're working small, you will need either pastel pencils with your pastel, or like a little blending tool, just so that you can get some of the detail, finer detail in. And you can move some of the chalk around and kind of use the edge of your chalk. I'm going to try, and I might use a mixture of both, but I will, when I was demonstrating today on a bigger paper, I just used pastels, but I'm going to probably have to switch to some pencil, because it's just so small. So this time I've got a little bit of glassine paper, just to rest my hand on, to cover up any work I've done underneath. And I know people ask me about the paper, so it's basically like a bit like a grease-proof one, so it doesn't get like any of the pastel kind of moving around underneath and smudging. So you just pop it over, and you can use that when you finish a piece of artwork and put on top of your paint your picture, and it'll stays nicer. But you can always try just a plastic wallet or something over the top of it. That's another way of doing it, to help. So I'm going to divide my page up. Obviously, if you want to do it by eye, that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to fold that down to get a true fold, a true middle section. This is because, particularly where there's a position on a bit of a bird, where it's in an awkward position or an unusual position, it can be quite difficult to work out where everything is. And we often end up making like heads a bit smaller than they should be, or not really making the body as wide as it should be, etc. So that's just a little helpful way. So if you're wanting to transfer that onto your actual paper, that's fine. Just go 1 or 2 shades lighter or darker than your actual paper, and don't press too hard, because if you're pressing too hard, then you won't be able to kind of scrub it out. I'm just going to see if you can see what's on here. So let's have a look. So I've gone for a kind of like a warmer coloured background, but you can go for any. I've had all sorts of colours today, and they all worked really well. I'm using pastel matte today, rather than the paper. Pastel matte takes a lot more pastel, and it's got it's lots of tooth and grain in it. Actually, that's a bit not really near the middle, is it? Just realise it's a bit wider on that side. So I'm just going to move this across a minute. It's only there temporarily. I mean, I wouldn't be making it so dark if we couldn't see on the camera. I'd make it slightly lighter. So there we go. So I actually drew my bird out this morning just because I wanted to, I can just bring a bit of that background into it. You could put the whole background in, but actually I'm just going to keep these warmer colours nice and fresh. So I'm just going to do the background, put the bird in, and then pop some background behind all this lovely, lovely kind of out of focus colours. I mean, obviously there's so many different ones on here, or you might have your own one to do. Just go for the colours that you really fancy. And if you like blues, go for blues. If you like greens and things, go for that, or this colour here. And of course you can put your own slant on it because it's your artistic license. We don't have to stick to those colours. If you've got something else, then do use that you prefer. Right, so I'm just kind of like this is why it can be quite a useful tool when we're doing birds, just to get to have a little look at the shape of the head, etc. In each section, so we know here it doesn't take up too much space. And then I'm going to continue through. I'm looking at the shape of the head, and again, when we've used something, just to see what the angle is. So this has got a slight slant upwards, so I can just use that to help me. I know that it doesn't only comes a little bit of the way out there, and then it's coming down again. Everything's movable anyway. And then we've got the neck that comes out. I'm just looking at how far out it comes in here. A bit further out than that, actually. So I'm going to do that, make sure I've got that. And then that comes up. And then we've got the beak. You could use the edge of your pastel to be doing this as well. This is what I did this morning when I did a bit of paint. This one's tiny. And there we go. And again, I'm just getting a general idea. I'm not going to try and perfect this beak right now. I'm going to do, put more emphasis on it once we come back to doing that area. But what we'll do is I'll pop the eye in, just because that's a really good marker of, of everything, where everything else comes through and starts from. So I'm just getting this shape in. It's really quite circular. It's actually the side of the bird. That's not. So I'm also popping in just a few while I'm doing this and while I'm up here, just a few little places where I think it's going to be a bit darker, where you get these fantastic patterns. And that's one of the beauties of having a go at birds, because they have these fabulous patterns and there's a lot of movement of feathers, which, directional movement of the feathers, which really helps us to create the shape of everything. So I'm just popping, as I said, just a couple of marks out to see where these patches come. Might just do another bit here. So we can see all where the different patterns go, and then so where the end of this comes to is pretty much where the ends of those markings is. So I'm just going to pop that in. And while I can, pop a little bit there where this other area is. So again, that's quite handy even to see where the markings come to whilst we're kind of getting used to our, drawing skills and everything, getting things into place. So yeah, so I'm more than happy with that. I'm not worrying about the real details of the eye till I come back to it, just kind of getting some things into place. And then again, we can look at the direction and the angle of where everything comes out to. And coming up further with that. And then again, having a little look at where we come down to. So this, what you do notice, I think, with this is how wide the bird actually is, don't we? That's probably a little bit too far as well. And then we're just bringing down, bringing down this part of the body. And again, we can check the angle. And then again, just having a little look so we can kind of come around underneath here. And then we can look at how far it comes out. So if we actually divided this into sections, it's just a little over a third of the way, isn't it? So 1, 2, 3. So that helps a little bit with deciding, you know, where everything's coming to. And then again, we can kind of pop some of the shape in here. That's coming, it's quite rounded, isn't it, there? And again, we can change things, it's not a problem. And then it's very rounded again, isn't it, when you come over here? So it just comes down like that. And then we've got the tail, which is coming out pretty much on the top there. So the only other thing I might just pop in is just a little bit where we've got some of this. Oh, I see what I've done there. Let me comes down here. So that's why it feels a bit wide. Is just popping in some of these other sections. So I'm going to pop that bit there where we get these other patterns there. We can just follow the pattern around. And again, we'll concentrate on it a bit more because there's a few kind of overlapping wings and things going on there. But we'll give that more focus when we come to do it. And then if you think you need to bring things in a little bit because you might have come too far or whatever, then you can do that with the background in a mo, which is quite a good reason to do that. You know, just get a bit of the bird matching and then we can kind of go on the top. And then we've got things like the legs that pop out, but I'm not going to put too much into that. So that starts over the side and it comes right over. Comes down into the, so I'm just going to put a very, very brief line of where the legs might come to. This comes a bit further down here, right at the edge there. There we go. And then obviously the stick behind, but I'm not going to put the stick on because I'll need to actually get some of this in place. I mean, see, what you can do is you can have a little look at, you know, anywhere else you've got where there's some pattern and see if you want to, you know, just pop some of that out, just helps a little bit, you know, with some of the wings and things. And there we are. So, having a little look about your background, the nice thing about this is it's really nicely diffused here. And I think it's quite fascinating because what we have here when we start to look at this is quite a cool background. Even the sticks and everything are quite cool colours, aren't they? They're not really warm, but then we have this beautiful warmth of the foreground. But there's some very interesting colours in when you start to have a little look. And because it's a neutral palette again, don't be frightened of using a little bit of colour on the bird or in the background just to kind of lift things a little bit because it can get quite samey if we're not careful. But just a pop of colour really does lift any neutral background quite well. So I'm going to pick out some darker shades and pop those in first. Let's have a look at them. Here's my pencils. Let's see, I did use it. So interestingly today I used quite a few colours I've never used before. One colour, sorry, I've never used before, so that was nice. And I actually have used a few of these. So I'll just pop these on there so you can see them. I've got like a light blue, taupey colour, a light green, and then I think I might have used the lilac-y one. Where is that coming? It's up there. So those are colours I'm going to go in with. And just start to kind of build a picture up here. So just kind of getting plenty on. Now I've got pastel mat, so this is where I've got to remember it takes a lot If you're going with greens or anything though, just have a really good look at the colours in there. So because I've got pastel matte, it's you know, it's not going to move that easily. So I'm just going to kind of help it along a little bit. And again, one of the bigger things with it is to make sure that we're not making the colours muddy by like kind of bringing them all together when we don't need to, you know, where there's some darker ones. So it's like how we do that really. So fixing these darker colours into place is one. Let's see what top you want. There we go. I'm going to bring in another one slightly. It's not quite light enough, that one. I'll use that one over this side. That one. But yeah, I mean, if you're going over to a lighter colour over another side, just make sure your hands are clean. That can muddy it. So it's cleaning our hands in between. But then if we want to bring other lighter colours in there, we're just going to go in a little bit more heavy over the top. We can still kind of make it really nice and loose. We can just brush that over. Let's see. So these are kind of grey tones anyway, so I'm not worried too much about them getting too muddy. It's when you've got like a kind of a brighter one, just being a little bit more mindful of that. So I'm going to come in with those. But just come in with whatever you want. There's some lovely colours in there. Really lovely. And I'm just kind of, I am wishing those ones together at the end because they are fairly, you know, fairly dark anyway. Starting to build in some. So this is where I know here I need to also move some of that in a little bit. And I'm going to layer up another colour on top of that as well. Quite fancy the blue. And also bringing this head in because I realised it was a little bit too large to start with. So that's a good opportunity to do that. So I might bring in a little bit of this green colour as well, where it's slightly lighter. And this is where I probably start to be a little bit more mindful of not, you know, cleaning my hands up, making sure they're dry when I go in. And I'll keep that in its own little area. And if I want to blend, just kind of drag it over a little bit. So you can soften it and bring it over, but I'm not like really, really over mixing on the spot there. This is a slight one. I'm going to pop this colour underneath if you think of it as well. Again, just kind of just drag those two colours together a bit. And that's what we're doing, just kind of bringing the two colours together. We've got the dark ones first so that we don't kind of muddy over once we've got like the really light ones into place. And then thinking about some of these greeny colours, greeny grey colours underneath. So, you know, you can even pop a bit of a base on if you want with the two. And being really, you know, really kind of getting plenty of pastel in them. So I'm bringing it into the body a bit, create a little bit more shape there. It's lovely. It's lovely. You know, getting these kinds of out of focus effects is really nice. There we go. So I'm going to move it over a little bit. Just getting those kind of base colours in. And then I'll start to kind of layer up some of those slightly lighter ones around here as well. So when I'm doing that, I'm just making sure I'm popping a fairly decent layer on. And this is where I'll just be a little bit mindful of how much I mix, just as long as it's fixed in. But I want a diffused feel anyway, where these little light patches come through, like almost like a kind of a lovely mist coming through there. So I'm just dabbing the ends so it doesn't get, it retains the colour. The other thing is, once we start to actually get the branches and everything into place, the background does disappear. So you don't need to get too bogged down with it. Just get some nice colours in that you want together. As long as you're getting kind of like the effects that you want. So I'm just using my pastel still on its side here. Gently, like kind of just tapping it over really. So that it, so you can see the colours still. This is why it's lovely, because you can choose your own colour. So this is a colour I've just never used normally, but I really think it's really nice in this environment. Good chance to experiment with it. So I'm coming in here over the top of some of these, getting this nice lighter one in. Just kind of building on the layers over the top. There we go, so just building up wherever we want. And then I'm going to go in with some interesting, really light blues in here, just to brighten it up. Make sure your fingers clean. You're going to put any blues in. And again here, still being a bit lighter touch over the top of the grey, because I want to keep this blue looking nice and fresh if I can. I'm going to get another blue. It's obviously a used colour. Go in with this. Plenty on when you're first building it up. I'm going to bring a tiny bit of this lighter one on here as well. This is what we can do. We can just, just add to what we've got already. Sometimes we just don't have a plan. It builds on what we've got and it just evolves. And that's what feels right to us at the time. Nice and light to touch with these other layers on. There we go. And then just kind of building up the picture around here. Now it's quite dark, but you could have put pinks or whatever you can see in there. Just have a little play. Almost feels like that one needs to be a little bit taupey as well. But again, it's just we're just exploring these lovely colours, aren't we? So I'm going to go in with this taupey colour, which is slightly, just so slightly warmer. And I might kind of put a little bit of grey on there with it. And again, I'm not worried about that blending because they're similar tone. So I think some things we can layer up without too much worry. And they're quite close. And keep exploring these colours at the top. I want to make this a bit lighter over this side though, for sure. So I'll use some colours. And again, as I said, we put quite a lot into this sometimes, but then as soon as that the bird and the branches and everything go over the top, it becomes quite it's not as important. We're making a good foundation for what's coming underneath is what we're doing. And then I'm going to go in here, this sort of thing like exploring colour. I'm going in just some of this colour across the top. I've got some sharp edges there, and it's kind of like, you know, people saying, what do I do to get rid of the edges? Well, we can just gently blend across the other side, add some more of that colour and bring it over. I'm actually going to add some a bit of lilac because I'm seeing those colours, but again, you know, probably whatever you can see. It's still a cool tone, but this time I'm not going to really overblend it. I just want it a little bit over the top because I want, otherwise that will get muddied up, and I want some of that colour to come through really. So I'm just going to blend gently at the edges here, bring it over and back. It's getting lighter at the top now. You know, you can put as much into your base as you want to. And again, a lot of this is going to run those shallows off. Lost my pastel. I'm coming back along this side now, so I'm just being mindful of the colours. See, I've lost the foot again, but it's fine. I'll sort that. Not worried at this point. I want to make sure my base is onto it. I can build those colours on. So I know definitely now it's the habit of getting into is to be able to keep cleaning that off your fingers and then drying your fingers so you don't end up with a you don't end up with a damp surface because you don't want to take the surface off with your finger with it being too wet. So I've got some green, bit green down here. I'm just kind of observing what's happening across as I come through. And then we can find some a bit more talky grey. That's what I'm seeing, but as I say, to seeing some different things. I feel like I'm nearly there. Just going to go in and lift it a little bit with a bit more of this lilac-y colour here. And you might want to put, there might be some even lighter colours that you want to put on, and that's absolutely fine, you go for it. Beauty is to be able to choose the different colours, it's so nice. So have a little look at where you are with it. If there's anywhere that you feel you want to kind of combine the colours a bit more, then bring one in a little bit more over another, then by all means do that. And that's a tiny bit. Just down here. So I'm not over mixing. But this is going to be covered up with a so probably just a bit more. And just orange. Okay. Right, so I'll just take a pause there to see how you're getting on. Back in a mo. So when you've got the very, very background, like the mist and everything, where you want it, just give it a good, just blow off all of any excess or tap off any excess chalk so it doesn't kind of get moved about into your bird. If you want to, you can also, if you want to pop any of the foliage and things in just so you can see where you are, that's fine. I'm just going to get straight to work on the bird and then I'm going to pop my other branch in. I'll probably do the branch before the bird's feet just so that that's behind it, but I'm just going to have a little go and start to kind of map out some of these things. So pretty much what I tend to say is go for it with, you can pop this in with mine's going to be too tiny, but you can try and use the edge of your pastel. I'm going for that eye. Now, if you've been coming a while, you'll know that I'm a big fan of getting the eye in. I'll finish that off. So when I was saying earlier about using a tool, you can use the blending tool to kind of pull around the shape to where you want it. Now, don't worry, like this eye now, so it's too big. Because I was using the big pastel on a very small area, it's fine because we can just go and put the other colours and things over the top and make that, minimise that, make that smaller. It's not a problem at all to do that, which I'm going to do in a bit. So I'm going to go in with like think about what colour base I want for these lovely greys and things like that. So I'm going to start. I am going to use my pastel to do that. So the colours, I'm happy with the colours for that. So I'm looking around the eye area to start with. Now the only other thing is we kind of tend to, you can actually pop, you can like just kind of shade in some areas if your paper's big enough to do that. first. We're almost looking as well. Normally we put dark ones in first, but we've also got to look at what comes over the top. But actually, this dark one, these dark feathers here around the eye come over the top of the grey one. So that's why I'm putting the grey first. So this is one of those things, isn't it, where the rules are great. If you can get your shadows in place first, fix it in place to avoid the muddiness. But there are going to be times when, you know, you need to put the correct layers over each other. So it's not. So I'm just going to go in with this. And again, what I'm looking at is, when I'm doing this, I'm looking to see what the direction of the feathers is. And you can start to pop that in a little bit. So around there is slightly different to these ones. Now you can also overlay a little bit with something that's slightly brighter. So I'm going in with that light blue here. And this is how I'm going to create over the top. Just put plenty of pressure on there. And the pastel mat will hold it, but plenty of pressure on. I'm kind of creating the direction of these feathers. With the pastel. And we've got this contrast of these two colours. And I might pop in, let's have a little look at what else we've got in there. So I may pop in some of these darker pastels here where I'm seeing the eye from in the corner. So I'm going in, and again, I'm putting plenty of pressure on, and I'm just creating the shape of this patch around the eye, basically. It comes up here. I'm starting to kind of just pop in tentatively some of these shades now. I might pop in the ones that come above that as well, because above here it's a little bit slightly lighter grey where the light's capturing it. So I'm going to look at another one. I may actually just need to pop in, just make it a bit lighter just behind the head here, because otherwise the head may just disappear into a very similar tone. So I may just go for slightly misty effect there with the cream liquid. Just in this area around the head, very gently. We're going to put in this in. And then any of the darker ones that kind of overlap, creating again like in the direction of those feathers. And we've got some other ones here as well. And we'll start to pop in some of these darker ones here that come between. Just using plenty of pressure. And then a few of these slightly darker ones that you can see around on the top of the bird as well. And down the back, it's the sun, isn't there, down the back here as well, just slightly disappearing. I've not done a really thick line of that because it will appear to be really kind of unnatural. So I'm just following, you know, just some of the shape that's going on here. I might use a slightly different grey. It's not quite as black when it's not too dark. There we go. Just to bring in a little bit of contrast into the top of the head here. where we haven't got quite as many dark ones. So again, this is where if you've not got pencils, you can kind of put a bit of a mark in and then pull some of these feathery marks into the feathers here to make that shape in that way. And then we've got these brighter ones, we'll kind of finish up with a lighter one there. So this one, again, we're just observing where it kind of goes. I'm going in with an actual pastel here. I tend to prefer a pastel to a pastel pencil when I've got white over the top because it tends to be a bit softer and makes more of makes a brighter mark. So that's just a personal thing. But you can use a pastel pencil, it's fine if you're thinking it's finding it difficult to work in a small space with your pastel. But again, just picking out really only the highlights, real highlights there that I can see with it. And then really around the eye, it's just there's just a kind of a nice the shape of the bright bit here, isn't there? It's, you can choose what yellow is. I mean, I've not done much testing, have I, on here actually, but I will test this one. Where I'm now going to put plenty of pressure over that, create the shape of that. It's really a little bit pointed there. Creates the shape around the eye. Like that. And then we tend to, and there's a little really tiny mark actually in there. I don't have to go in with a pencil because it's so small in here. Just a little light mark. Now what you can see then is we're left with this, the eye. So the eye looks very flat when we've got big black mark in it like that. But what we can do is just look at where the highlight is. And it doesn't even have to be white, it could be like a light blue or whatever colour you can see. I'm going to go on the light blue. And I'm just going to create whatever, same as when we do reflections, I'm just creating the shape that we see reflected in the eye. Almost like two bits to that. And that straight away now will make it feel, like more glass-like. Just by popping a couple of marks in there. So if there's anything else I'll pop, I'm going to brighten up some of these feathers on the front just with a bit of a bright blue. And you can do that, you can go in with a bright colour as well. You can even go in with a turquoise or something if you wanted. Or something like that, sort of thing about using colour. You want to just add a little bit of a bright colour in there. We can just kind of layer it up so it's not so intense that it feels like it's changing the colour of the bird, but it can just give a little bit of just a bit of depth to everything going on there. So then, then we can work around. So you could go if you wanted to layer up all of that individually and do each of the sections. I personally, but it's personal choice whether you want to do that or you want to just kind of work your way around and build the layers up in each area. I tend to do that because I totally lose what's going on because there's quite a lot of different directions. I tend to like to finish one area, but again, totally up to you the way you do that. And some of it's just kind of working out what it is that you want to do really. Yeah, so we're just kind of bringing that. With those directions in there. And then we just, then, you know, just looking at the colours going down the back here, a bit brighter here. So I may just layer up with a little bit of a layer over that blue. And again, you can use your blending tip or whatever to kind of just get your colours in place if you want to. I'm just going to add some more of this lighter colour. I'm looking at where the feathers go, which way. And popping the highlight in there. And then I'll go in with these other colours that come over the top, this patch here seems to come over. So we've got some mainly darker, so I'm going to put that on first. You could go with a really dark brown, or you could go with a, you know, it's almost black brown, isn't it, in some of these. You could go in with a bit of brown over it as well if you wanted to. So we just literally, we're just kind of starting to pop in the shapes we can see. I'm going to just let my paper come through here at this point. Get that beak in as well. And we use this, pretend that this paper, the colour of it, is the colour that's coming through. So let's have a little look. So with the beak, you just find some contrasting colours. So I'm going in for a darker colour between the beak here, get the shape of it without actually and then we'll soften it down by adding some of the other colours with the beak in there. And then, you know, any darks or highlights as well. So your dark may not be black, it's quite light, isn't it? It might just be grey or any of those colours. And then we're just looking, you know, start to kind of, again, build up the picture of what you can see here, where the lighter areas are around the beak. If there's any highlights on the top of it. And it's all of those things. That's, I think, you know, you don't have to go with a white highlight either, so you can just go with a brighter one. A brighter version of the colour that you can see. Just pop a bit of grey back into the end of this beak. Okay. So I'm not going to spend too long on that because again we can get really a little bit kind of hooked into it. We need to get the rest of the shape in as well, and we can always come back to bits if we're not sure about them. So yeah, so keep looking at the shapes that you can see being made with these feathers. And how far they come down. Now that this darker one is over the top, so I'm going to stick with this colour over here. But then I'm really looking, so this is where it really helps us with the shape of the bird. So, you know, just observe the different kinds of colours that are underneath. So you've got this very kind of warm red here. It's a bit cooler down this side, darker. And then there's kind of a midpoint, you know, mid one in between all three there. And then it's a bit red, further red, obviously, here. So this is where we can use the colours that we see in just to help us out a little bit. So I'm just going to try, and this is where I'll definitely test my colours because it's quite tricky to see all those different ones. So that's one. But that's warm. I'd say that one's more like that one there. And then we need a really kind of a rich one down this bottom side here, which might even lay up, that might be too warm, but we'll try, and maybe in the underbow there as well. So it could be you've got like a, you need to layer up, say with this, you might need a bit of an orange one over the top, for example. But just on a plain sea, it was quite right. So I'm just going to go in and pop those patches over the top there. So let's see. And again, we can change it and we can layer it up. We can do other things to it. So it's definitely right on the bottom. Just put plenty of pressure on if you've already, you know, if you're going back over some of this area here, just gently do that with the edge. So I'm going to put on this base underneath. And I'm going to warm it up in some of the areas and put this really right in down the bottom here. And use your blending tip if it's difficult to remember. Make sure your blending tip and a bit of a wipe and a bit of tissue or something, or a wipe or a get some okay, I'm just going to move it around a little bit when you want it. So we're just kind of feeling our way around here, just kind of with these colours. You know, you can start to kind of layer them through as well if you want to do that. Again, you know, this mark making is down to you. So it's like we mentioned last week, how we make these marks is down to you, you know, to your artist's hand. So if you feel like you want to do like lines and things over the top, that's great, do it. Just make sure they're pressed. You know, you kind of pressing them in a little bit. Slightly less one, a little bit cooler. So I'm looking at observing these different colours here. Top. And I'm going to look at here, it's quite heavily populated with a brown. See which brown. I'm going to go for that taupey brown actually, this bottom section of the wing here. And then build it up over the top with a much darker brown. So we just, you know, kind of push that in a little bit if you want. Again, we just got to be careful not to kind of over muddy, but it's how we recreate those sections of colour in the rings. I think in a minute I'm going to have to personally work into this now because it will start to, I'll start to get a bit lost in there. So I think I'm just going to put a little bit more this red down here. If, for example, you think, oh, crikey, I've gone a bit dark, it's a bit dark and I want it, then that's all right. Just layer up another colour. It's going to change when we put the dark brown on anyway. Okay. Right. So let's have a look where we are. So yeah, so we're just kind of layering up these bright something now. In here now, I'm seeing a slightly lighter, yellow in that. So I'm going to try and pop that in just to add a bit of lightness to it. I'm going to do that before I add some of the little overlap. Just, it's almost like it goes between the patterns. So I'm just, probably this is brighter than it actually is, but again, I think it will lift. Like I was saying earlier, it sometimes lifts the colour. Okay. And then we can move some of these other colours and what we get through. So this is kind of prepping the underside really before I can go in over the top with some of the patterned areas. So we need some highlights in there as well. There's some quite light areas also, so I'm going to pop those in. Right. So I'm going to go in with a darkish brown now. I'm going to use my pencil again and start to kind of recreate these, these patterns I've started over here. And I'm going to pop this bit stuff on. But it really is quite fun doing this step because you think, oh, wow, where the pattern goes. And it becomes really quite fascinating when you look at different birds and their markings. You think, wow, I didn't realise that they did that. I've painted quite a few robins now, and you get used to generally how the patterns are and things like that. It's really nice when you look at a bird you haven't done. But they've all got, similar features in that they've all got their own patterns. So yeah, it's really need to focus in here to get these in. And you're observing where the patterns get wider and where they get narrower. And it doesn't matter if it's not, identical. Remember, we're trying to create this artist's impression, and just explore what's going on. You only have to do a few, and then the eye works out the information for you anyway. So I'm popping in all the dark ones, but it will feel a bit harsh, and we can soften them off by putting some little highlights in. So don't worry. Oh gosh, they're feeling quite hard. It will be at this point because we've not got any more colours in. We're just putting the dark ones into place over the top. I'm just darkening some off. I'm just adding I'm actually adding a little bit black to this because I can't quite get the depth that I want. So that's what I'm doing. Just softening the edge down. It's a bit hard at the moment. So I'm just going to weave through any little highlights I can see just to kind of give it an extra dimension. So I'm just going to bring in a little bit of a brighter one through here as well. just between. That'll just lift it a bit. You know, it could be a highlight even. Maybe not so bright through all of the way, but some of it. Could be just a lighter peachy one or something that you add on. Just give it a bit of a lift. You don't get loads down that side because it's quite dark. But, and then if you want, you know, you can bring up, tap it down if you want to as well. And then we're just continuing, you know, we can put as much or as little as we want in. There's a little bit of kind of work around this wing here, and then underneath here it's very light. So I think that bit will be quite fast actually, putting that, although it's a bit of a shadowy colour there. But I'm going with this bit at the top so that then I can work out where everything goes. So let's have a look what we've got. We've got a few different bits of the wing, haven't we? We've got, let me break this up. We've got this top bit which does clearly come in and out again. Probably needs to go a little bit wider, I think, on there. And then we have this bit of the up here. And there's a lighter one here that needs to go over the top. Yeah, and then this part of the ring, which is quite a lot of movement on that there. And then there's another part of the ring that comes out there. And then the tail, it's part of the tail feather, isn't it, actually? Tail that comes out. So, a few different tones in there, let's see. So that's a little bit light. Not showing. That's two other two ones. Let's see what this one does. These little bits where you get a broken, have that one. A bit green, it's a bit brown. But the browns and things are a bit cooler. Try that one. This green one. I'm just going with this too. A really bright bits on this bit of on this bit of the wing here on the ends highlights, and try and get that in to separate it out a bit. Let's see what we've got there. So I'm just going to bring this round a little bit, just kind of put that one back. Yeah. And then we've got this lovely But all these just different, beautiful textures, haven't we? So we've got that. So again, if it's getting too small for you, don't worry. Just do best fit. Because all we're doing is kind of we're just trying to create an image of representation of what we can see. So not everything has to be perfect all the time. It's just a suggestion that shows us what it might be. So let's just move this and try and get this kind of striping effect between. So this is more of a suggestion. It's not really detailed because it's quite small. And then we've got this brown area of the wing here. And we've got a little bit of a light tip there. Sometimes you get a little bit of a highlight. But highlights a little bit, it's just going with a little bigger highlight on the top. Doesn't need to be really detailed. And then what else we've got? The other wing colours coming out here. So it's almost quite dark. I don't quite like. So actually it almost looks like the darkest bits on top of these bright little feathers. So I'm going to pop these bright little feathers going over this way. I'm not going to expect them grey or something. Pop a little bit of green. And then the tone. So again, we're just looking at the different tones in there. There's a few, like almost a few different greys, or whatever you can see. You might want to go in with that. I'm going to go with that light blue again. Sometimes that's just a picture of pop of. Oh, that's a bit different. And there we go. And then I was thinking about, what comes next really. Pop. This is just a little tiny thing like what I've noticed. There. And then we're thinking about, what comes around here. So I've got some light peachy colours. We're just, again, we're kind of preparing the base for these. And there's a few lovely little colours in there. And again, we're just observing the little colours and things that we can see in there. So, you know, if you've got any warmer colours, whatever you want to pop in, like pop the others in. We're just kind of building up these. And you may have like a where you get a bit of shadow underneath and maybe a bit of chalky colour or whatever it is you can see in there. And again, trying to create, there's not as much texture under here because we can't really see it. Because it's quite soft, isn't it, in the underbody as well. But we can just pop a few little different tones in. There we go. And any kind of little patches that we've missed off. Yeah, and if that's kind of, I suppose, a point where if you want to go and, you know, darken any areas as well, because anything you want to make that bit darker, then you by all means go and do that. And so we can, you know, pop in some texture. And that kind of leads us nicely, really, onto um, you know, onto the popping on the, you know, the branches and things. So I'll probably pop the feet on just a little bit. You know, the feet are always interesting. Feet cause people quite a lot of like worry, but it doesn't need to. Just because you don't want too much detail on the feet, because what we want to be looking at is the bird. So we kind of put suggestions of the feet. So we're just doing some kind of a shape, and I just start with each what I can see with each you know, foot and toe, just the shapes it makes. You can't really see it in detail, and we don't want to be, because if we can make these really detailed, the rest of the bird, that'll pop forward, and the rest of the bird won't. So we don't really want to. So that's a good reason not to get too involved with the feet. As long as you've got something that looks more or less in the shape, then that's great. And there's different tones on there as well. Often you can't see much of it anyway, to be fair. Probably come down a little bit far. That's fine. If there's anything, we can just kind of change that up. And then you can have a little go at your, you know, getting some of the branches and things in. So I'm just putting them lightly. And again, you know, you can leave them out. You can just put one in. You can pick and choose really. But I think branches are really interesting because you get this very shady underside. Very shady underside, and then you know different colours, like another colour in between, which has got from the main branch, and then you know little highlights as well. So we can also, you know, create some shape in there to make it feel more 3D as well by you know, bringing the colour around, almost making a cylindrical shape. But I'll show you that in what I mean. So I'll probably only just get round to just doing this one. but it'll be enough of a demo to kind of as a help. And again, you know, the beauty of branches is they kind of twist and turn, not, you know, they don't have to be perfect at all. You just need different tones and things in there. And then we've got a leaf from behind, which is nice. I'll probably put that one first. And again, with the leaf, you know, you just kind of drawing what you think you can see, the shape of it. If you're not sure, you can divide it into two where you get the vein and then do one side and then the other. But yeah, they're lovely, aren't they? There's like a pop-up coming under here as well. So you don't always see the full leaf, or even sometimes it's difficult to make out which each bit is. We just got to use shadow and then the different tones in the leaf to kind of create the shape, really. So I'll just have a look at demonstrating that, and then I'll do a pause, the last pause there, I think. So I'm going in with my shadow, the underside of the branch. And when I'm looking at this particular tone, I'm thinking it's quite cool, the whole thing. Doesn't feel very warm. So I'm going to go, if you could try like a dark green, or you could try, what else, like a brown if you want to. I'm going to go in with a dark green, I think. Which is not maybe as dark as I could go with this one. So I need to test to see. That's a bit warm, so that's probably more on mid-tone there. Again, this will be dependent on the greens you've got. Now I'll stick with this one, that's probably quite dark. So what I'm doing is I'm popping this on the underside. Again, you could just use a pencil, or you can use your blending tool and kind of move that along a little bit where you want it to go. Create a harder edge. I'm going to go in between the feet there. So it might have some knots in it as well, the branch. So I'm going that side. Now this colour up here looks slightly lighter, so I'm going to go in with I think I'll probably try my brown pastel, I think, together. So I'm just looking underneath each of those, which side I'm seeing the shadow on. Now you might get this one's got like a double shadow, so we're just looking at that because obviously the bird is on one side, one edge of it as well. And that use the same, I think, same shade there. So you've got like this double shadow cast there, which is not always typical. So we've got half of the picture missing, really, is what we've got at the minute. So I'm going to look for another tone now. So again, keep testing your greens until you decide. So I'm going to go in with this one as a mid-tone because it's a bit cooler. So I'm going to go over the whole of the rest of the, and just really easily fill that in like that. Just fix that in place. What I can also do though is start to bring that colour around into a bit of a shape. So I'm kind of making a bit of a curve So it's not too flat, like lots of straight lines flat. And I can do the same thing with my darker one as well. I can kind of bring it and just in certain areas. I'm not going to do it everywhere, but where it's a little bit darker, just create that play over this. And start to create that shape of this bit. And then I want a highlight on there as well where you get this highlighter. So again, it's deciding what colour is that highlight. And again, you could even go in, it doesn't even have to be green or pale, you know, it could be like a blue or something, which is what I'm going to try. So this bit is capturing the front, that's kind of down the middle, isn't it? So I need plenty of pressure on. Then I'm looking, this bit's kind of going on the top, this area here in this branch. I'm saying here, so I'm looking at where these highlights on here. I mean, you could go on with white or something if you want, if you feel it is, but I'm like happy going on with that. If it's very light over this, I might just add a little bit more light one where I really want it to stand out. And then again, you know, I'm going to go in with a little look at what colour to go in there, so maybe just go in with that. And then, you know, pop it up again with a brighter one. So yes, that's how we're kind of creating those different tones to make it feel like it's, you know, rounded and not flat, to be honest. Just softening down, that's quite a harsh line on that big one. Just going to rectify it actually. Right, so little feet there. Again, you know, you could go in with purple or a brown, or again, it's quite a cool colour, isn't it? So I think I'm going to go in with a reddy brown, like a purpley colour actually. Sometimes they are a bit purpley, and sometimes a bit blue. I'll just go in with whichever colour you think. This is feels a bit more blue on this side. Stick with this one. And again, you know, just pop in a bit of blue just to do that. And then anywhere there's a shadow, just pop a quick shadow in. And again, as I said, we don't need to be putting hours of detail into the feet. And then the highlight. So I'm not going to go in with a really bright highlight. I'm going to do this blue, I think, around here. just a bit, because I don't want to draw too much attention to it. That's why, just where it's catching the light on this side, and then on the front of the foot there. And that'll be fine. And there's just a little, there's just a leaf over. I'll just do this one as a demonstration. So I'm going to go in with a base coat, and again, you might have to test all of your different colours. This is not saying this is a highly accurate, but I can use the one base then to add the darker ones too, and get the bits that in the shadow that feel like they're popping backwards. Just putting some of the shadows in place there, and the dark ones, that will help it feel like it's going backwards. So get all your shadows in. Some kind of a shadow in here, but not as much. And then again, having a little look at if there are any other tones you want to put in, all your, highlights. Maybe the highlight on this side that's a bit more in the shadow isn't quite as bright. It might be a yellow or something. Think about that tone. But then on this side, there's, these are the colours here. So, I'm just going to pop a brighter highlight on here with this peachy one. So yeah, so we've just got little different elements, going on there. We pop a little bit of colour back in the side and here. And you can also pop, if there's any bits you want to pop back in again as well. Any veins or anything like that. So yeah, so we're just popping in, we can add other leaves sometimes when there's a few more than one. It feels, it ties it together a bit better. But yeah, so just when you get to that point where you think I'm just going to look for some balance, is there anything else I need to put in there? Any brighter colours, for example. I'm just looking here to this colour. Is there any, are there any other colours to add some more depth, within the bird as well, or am I happy overall with it? And sometimes you just need to go away for a whole day from it and just leave it sat there and come back and have a look. But it's very enjoyable, isn't it? Just as a study, watching all of those different areas. So yes, we'll just take this off because it always looks very different when you've got a little border around the outside. And you can see it feels more like a little study then, doesn't it, when it's got when you can see it. And just give that a tap off. See how much pastel there is there. But yeah, I hope that was really helpful to you, just so you can start to really kind of like study different birds and different patterns and things like that, and just enjoy looking. That'll be my final pause for tonight. So I hope you enjoyed that.